Hi there, Sandra here with another Procreate tutorial. This is for those of you who want to do a little bit of drawing and really don't know where to start, just something you can play with. Today I'm going to be showing you how to draw a stylized elephant. This is not realism, this is just a cartoon. So the first thing I want to do is to choose my brush. I've got my page open and I want to choose a brush. And I'm going to go for monoline, and the reason I'm using this one is because it's a very plain line, there's no real effects on it. I've got the streamline on to maximum and the stabilization to 55%, and that means when I do lines like this, it's a nice smooth line, there's no jerkiness in it. I don't want it to be too thick. Now on this little bar here you'll see some bars, and if I tap on it you'll see that it says size 30%. Now, if you move things down like that, it gets smaller, move it up, it gets bigger. And you can have, I think it's just 4 markers on here you can have to save your particular line width. So for example, if I tap on that place and tap on the plus at 13%, that highlights it and it's now there. Oops, don't want to do that. It's now there so that it's amongst my settings. And if I go back into that one, I know that I've got it there, I can use it. Which means if you're doing lots of designs, you want the same line width for each design, you can just pick it up, tap on it. Now in this particular case, I want a finer line, and I've got one in here. That is thick enough for anything that I want to do at the moment. So I've got my brush selected. If I use the eraser, I've got different settings on my eraser which I can also change, all right? So don't have to have the same settings for the eraser. So using my pen, what I want to do is I want to draw an S lying on its back, and I want the tail of the S to go beyond where it would normally. So if you really want to do it and you can't visualize it up that way, you can always do it this way and then rotate it. So what I want to do is to start off with a little U and then go for a bigger U and leave it to about there. So you can already see you've got the trunk, you've got the back end. I've got a little triangle to go there. And then I want to do the trunk. Now the trunk is going to be just a smile shape. So I want to start relatively close but not entirely touching the top part of the trunk. So come in here, just do a smile. If you don't like it, tap to remove it and do another one. On the top of the trunk, I'm just going to do a little bubble, sort of a bit like a bow, I guess. It's exaggerated for you. Now the next bit, I want to come in a little bit from the front of the head and down, and I want to do a little curve like that, and then I want to come down and I go along, up, along, down, along, like so. If you don't get them even, you can do it again until you get the result that you want. So down, along, up, along, down, along, up. And there we have it. We have the outline. Next, I want to go up a size. So I'm going to go to the next one. I'm just going to do a dot for an eye. So we got that. Now that I've got the eye in place, I go back to my narrower line and just do an eyebrow like so. Slightly narrower. Now the other thing I want to do is to take this smile line back down a bit. So go to the eraser this time, decide where I want to stop it, which is, I think, about there. Okay, so I'm going to go to the eraser and just erase everything past that mark. So now I'm going to go in and I'm going to do the ear. So I'm going to come up to the top, to the right of the eye, along, the wrong thing selected, silly me, and just check which line I got. That's that one. So I'm going to come along here, I'm going to go wibble, wobble, and then up. And you want that to be roughly in line with the eye. So we have our basic elephant. So if I want to delete this line and make it so that it is narrower still, I can take that one off. I can pull this down and I can go for a 1% line and I can add that to my list. And now I can come in and I can do little hairs on its tail, like that. I can put some wrinkles on his trunk, and I will mention those again a bit later. These are pretty much straight lines, so I'll show you how to deal with that later on. And then the other thing that I want to do is to give him some, or her, whichever it was, I keep picking up the eraser instead, some toenails, so just little shapes like that. Doing, doing. What I tend to do, if I come in here, I've got a monoline, which is this one, which is heavily stabilised, and I've got a freeform one, which is not stabilised, so that will allow me to do all sorts of curvature. So, you know, I can literally do this. It doesn't stabilise it in the same way. So that is the importance of having your stabilisation on, because it allows you to draw these smooth lines where your hand might actually not be that controlled. So I'm going to come in with my eraser again, and I'm just going to get rid of a little bit there, and then I'm going to get rid of that line just there, because his tail's not stuck onto his body, it's attached to it. And that is the basics of our elephant. You can now use this as a reference, but what I'm going to do first of all, I'm going to swipe left, I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to go to the one underneath, I'm going to switch it off so you don't see it, swipe left, and I'm going to lock it. So this is going to be here until I delete it, it will stay. Very important. So now I can fill this elephant with whatever colour I like, and if you make it into a reference layer, tap on the blue, and come right down to the bottom, make a reference layer. A layer above the top, so you tap and add another layer. And now if I come in here, I can choose a different colour. So I can choose that, for example, a pale grey, and I can put that in here. My elephant is pale grey. I can choose a different colour. I'm going to use a bright pink for the toenails. Now I'm going to come in, and I'm going to put that in there. Now it says continue filling. Whoops, I didn't get it in time. If you tap on the continue filling, you'll just tap on the next one. I didn't get it. Very difficult trying to talk and do this at the same time. If I drag this over here, it'll go into that first one there. Then that comes up, tap on that, and then these can be just tapped in. So I've got my grey elephant, but if you look at the layers, the colour is only on this layer here. I've still got my drawing, and I can, if I want to, I can duplicate this one. So duplicate it. I can take this layer and I can merge it down with that layer and have a grey elephant with a black outline and pink toenails, if that's what I want to do. And if I put the alpha lock on here, nothing outside of that grey layer can be coloured in. I can add another layer. Whoops. What is it with that eraser? I can add another layer and I can make that into a clipping mask, and that will clip it to the shape underneath, directly underneath. So again, come in with my brush, bit of colour here, bit of colour there, bit of colour just going up there, down there, and a bit of colour there. Okay, back over to my Gaussian blur, and here we go. We have a blurred effect, so you can have it as stark or as soft as you want. And I think that is perfectly okay. So I have now got a shadow layer, a layer of colour, and a layer with the line drawing of the elephant. And that's all because I have this reference. So I have my reference one, which is not changing. So when it comes to this, what I can do is take this one and duplicate it. So that is a shadow layer. And you can rename it as a shadow layer if you're bothered about doing that. Okay, so this layer here, if I tap on it, I can merge it down. So I now have that shadow attached to all the inside colouring on there. And if I then take this layer and I merge it down, I've got a whole shape here which is filled in with colour. It's drawn, it's filled in, and it's got the shadow. So I can then use that as a complete design. And what I can do, if I want to, I can grab hold of that and I can move it out of the way. So let's have a look, see what we can do in the way of moving. I can put it right down here. And then, if I want to, I can switch it off and I can lock it. So you can see the elephant in this preview window, but I can't damage it. I can't do anything wrong to it at all. Okay, nothing at all can be done to that. And I still have my shadow layer here, which if I do a different colour, for example, so I'll take this one, I will add another layer, and I'm just going to choose something completely and utterly different, blue. So I can now put blue in here, and I've got a blue elephant, but you notice the shadow is coming outside of here, and that's because this is not as yet clipped to the layer below it. If I clip it, all the shadow is exactly where I had it before, but it's on a different colour elephant. So by duplicating the shadow layer as many times as you need to duplicate it, and by using the reference layer, you can create lots of different colours in your elephants, and you can make up a complete page without having to redraw the elephant at all. But that's how you draw the actual elephant. I can do some water drops. Come in here and I use my free form with the black. I can add little trunk lines here and have some there. I could add a little smile line if I wanted to, where the cheek is. And obviously, if I feel like it, I can do some colouring on his toenails. I might have a paler pink, for example. So you can either colour drop into that, or you can just use your pen and colour it in. So whereas if you had drawn this on a piece of paper, you'd have probably gone through half a dozen sheets by now. You haven't. And you have it to keep, to print. You just send it to your printer from your iPad, or send it to your computer to do an image trace. Now, one thing, if you want to do an image trace, go into your layers and remove the background colour, and you have this completely transparent background. But do remember, if you just want to trace the outside lines of that, put some colour in it, because otherwise it's going to trace inside and outside of your raindrops. And you can share just that particular layer. It says share layers. So if you just want to share that one, you can share that layer. You don't have to share the entire lot. And that makes life a lot easier for you. The other thing that I wanted to show you how to do quickly is a stylized flower, and this is very easy. Draw a kind of loop, so you want like that. Okay. Now preferably you want to make it so that the lines actually add up. You don't have this little triangle bit here, okay? But you can, if you need to, get rid of it. I'm going to make that a bit bigger so it gets rid of that area for me a bit bigger. So now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to draw a dome. Now you don't have to do a smooth line for that, it could be a zigzaggy line, entirely your choice. If you want to close these bits up, you can. just do that. So once we got this, we come to somewhere near the outside of the petal and we just do almost like a little heart piece. Now the reason that goes to a line like that is because of the stabilization on this stroke. It thinks you want to draw a circle, which I don't want to do. But you can get it back simply by tapping the back button, right? And then I'm going to do another one like so. So it's got a little bit of a dimple in it, if you like. Come to the top, do something again like a heart, and come over to the other side and another bit like so. And we have a flower shape. Now we can select all of this and rotate it because flowers seldom go straight up, and we can draw a stem as well. So we can have a stem coming down here. This is where you probably do want stabilization on because you've got to be better than I am in order to do a really good curved line. For the bits that don't match up, come in with your eraser like so. You can come in with your brush and add bits where they are not joined. So come in here like so. So we've got the basic outline of the flower done. Now the same thing applies for the colouring in. If you want to do this and repeat it for different colours of flowers, then make sure you put it on different layers, use your reference, etc, etc. I'm just going to be doing the one at the moment. So if I come in here, we see the flower layer. I'm going to duplicate that. And then I'm going to lock that one, keep it nice and safe, make it a reference layer and put my drawing colouring on the top of that. So let's see what colours we fancy. Actually, I'll go for the drawing wheel. So the colour wheel here. Pick the basic type of colour I want. I think I'm going to go for yellow and move this to wherever it is that has the colour that I want. That's a pale yellow, that's fine. Put that in there, continue filling, so dump, 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 dump. That's all done. I want to now go to something which has a bit of a warmer tone to it, so I'll go for an orangey one. And I'm going to go for a stronger colour, but I'm going to add a layer to that. I'm going to give this one a alpha lock. This layer is going to have a clipping mask, and I'm going to add some shading to it. So coming in with a bigger brush, put some shading down here, some shading just here, and some shading there. So this is on its own layer. Come in, do the Gaussian blur, and we have some shading on the flower. That is fine. I'm only intending to do the one colour, and I'm just going to merge that down. Now if I combine down, it makes them grouped. If I merge them down, it's permanent. Groups you can play around with, merging down, that's it, it's there. Nothing else you can really do about that except draw over it. Okay. So I've got that bit done. I want to go back to my reference layer, add another layer in, and this time I want a dark brown, and I'm going to put that in there. Now I want a slightly paler brown, so I'm going to come up to about there, and I'm just going to do some dots. Those are a bit big, so I'm going to take those off, go to the smaller one, and just dots. You may not be able to see these too easily on camera. I've got that one. I want to come down to my reference layer. I want to add another layer again. And this time I'm going to go for sort of like an olive green and pop that in there. That's pretty good. Again, I can add another layer. Come to that one and make it slightly darker. And then, oops. Haven't got a alpha lock on there, so put my alpha lock on, come in here, I need something a bit thicker, put it in there, putting colour on this side only, come to my Gaussian blur again and swipe. And there we have it. So a very basic flower, but you get the gist. And it's easy to do. If you were trying to do that with watercolour or with markers even, it can take you far longer and be far more difficult. And you can repeat this, you can print it off multiple times if you want to. Whereas if you're doing it by hand, you've got to do each one by hand, you have no choice. So digital art is definitely easier. That's it for today. Don't want to make it too long. I'll see you again soon. Take care now.